Team 15 of 52 teams of 8 competitive rival wisdoms that helped make humanity wiser and kinder with antique quotes that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate and entertain generations for centuries. Team quote 15.1. What we think we become. Buddha 567 BC, 484 BC. This profound quote from Buddha captures one of the fundamental principles of Buddhist philosophy, the power of thought to shape reality. As the founder of Buddhism, Buddha understood the transformative power of the mind and its role in shaping our experience and character. What makes this observation particularly powerful is its simplicity and universality. In just 5 words, it expresses how our thoughts pattern our reality, influence our actions, and ultimately determine who we become. The quote suggests that transformation begins in the mind before manifesting in the external world. There's a deep responsibility implied in this statement. If our thoughts shape who we become, then we have both the power and the obligation to cultivate beneficial thoughts and mental patterns. It's not just about positive thinking, but about the entire pattern of our mental habits and their long-term effects. This insight forms the basis for many Buddhist practices, like meditation and mindfulness, which focus on developing awareness and control of our thoughts. It suggests that by cultivating wholesome thoughts, we cultivate wholesome characteristics and outcomes. The relevance of this wisdom has only grown with time, particularly as modern psychology and neuroscience have demonstrated the impact of thought patterns on behavior, well-being, and personal development. It reminds us that personal transformation begins with mental transformation. Team quote 15.2. Sin has many tools, but a lie is the handle which fits them all. Edmund Burke 1729–1797. This incisive quote from Edmund Burke, the Irish statesman and philosopher, uses a craftsman's metaphor to expose how lying enables other forms of wrongdoing. As a political theorist who wrote extensively about moral philosophy, Burke understood how deception often facilitates other ethical breaches. What makes this observation particularly powerful is the tool metaphor. It suggests that while there are many ways to do wrong, many tools, lying is the common element, the handle, that makes other misdeeds possible. Just as a handle allows us to grip and use various tools, Burke suggests that lying is what allows people to grip and wield other forms of misconduct. The metaphor works on multiple levels. Like a handle, lying gives us grip on situations we shouldn't control. Like a universal handle, lying can be attached to any form of wrongdoing. Like a handle, lying is often the part we grasp first when reaching for wrongdoing. There's also a practical insight here about the relationship between dishonesty and other ethical failures. Burke suggests that lying isn't just another form of misconduct, but rather the enabling factor that makes other misdeeds possible, whether through concealment, justification, or denial. This wisdom remains remarkably relevant today, reminding us that truthfulness isn't just one virtue among many, but a fundamental barrier against other forms of misconduct. Team quote 15.3. Those that vow the most are the least sincere. Richard Sheridan 1751–1816. This astute quote from Richard Sheridan, the Irish playwright and politician, captures a keen observation about human nature. As someone who wrote comedies that often satirized social pretenses, Sheridan understood how excessive promises often mask insincerity. What makes this observation particularly powerful is how it identifies the inverse relationship between the grandness of promises and their reliability. It suggests that the loudest declarations of loyalty, love, or commitment often come from those least likely to follow through. The word vow is especially significant here. It implies formal or solemn promises, suggesting that even seemingly serious commitments can be suspect when they're too emphatically made. This aligns with Sheridan's theatrical work, where characters who make the most dramatic declarations often prove the most duplicitous. There's practical wisdom here about evaluating others' sincerity. Sheridan suggests that genuine commitment tends to be demonstrated through actions rather than elaborate promises. True sincerity, he implies, doesn't need to announce itself so forcefully. This insight remains remarkably relevant today, particularly in an era of social media, where public declarations and promises abound. It reminds us that the most reliable commitments often come from those who simply act, rather than those who constantly proclaim their intentions. Team quote 15.4. A good heart is better than all the heads in the world. Robert Bulwer-Lytton, 1831–1891. This heartfelt quote from Robert Bulwer-Lytton, the English novelist and diplomat who served as Viceroy of India, expresses a profound truth about human value. Despite his own considerable intellectual achievements, he recognized that emotional intelligence and kindness matter more than pure intellect. What makes this observation particularly meaningful is how it challenges the common Victorian-era emphasis on rational thought and intellectual achievement. By elevating the heart above all the heads, Bulwer-Lytton suggests that compassion and emotional wisdom trump pure intellectual capability. The word good before heart is significant. It's not just about emotion or passion, but about moral character and benevolence. This aligns with a broader understanding that while knowledge can be accumulated, genuine goodness of heart is a more fundamental quality. There's also an implicit critique here of pure intellectualism. By suggesting that a single good heart outweighs multiple heads, Bulwer-Lytton implies that excessive focus on intellectual pursuits without emotional wisdom or moral compass can be limiting or even counterproductive. This insight remains strikingly relevant today, particularly in an era that often prioritizes technical knowledge and academic achievement. It reminds us that kindness, empathy, and moral character are ultimately more valuable than intellectual prowess alone. Team quote 15.5. Nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely. Auguste Rodin, 1840–1917. This insightful quote from Auguste Rodin, the French sculptor known for works like The Thinker, reflects his understanding of how every experience can contribute to personal and artistic growth. As someone who spent countless hours studying and sculpting the human form, Rodin understood that even apparent failures could become valuable learning opportunities. What makes this observation particularly powerful is the conditional clause. If you use the experience wisely. Rodin isn't suggesting that all experiences are automatically valuable, but rather that their worth depends on our ability to extract meaning and lessons from them. There's a profound optimism in this perspective. Even seemingly unproductive or negative experiences can be transformed into something valuable through reflection and understanding. This aligns with Rodin's artistic process, where every sketch, study, and attempt contributed to his mastery of sculpture. The quote challenges the common notion of wasted time by suggesting that the value of an experience lies not in its immediate outcome, but in what we learn from it. This applies to failures, setbacks, and detours that might initially seem like wastes of time, but can provide valuable insights or unexpected directions. This wisdom remains especially relevant today in a culture often focused on immediate productivity and measurable outcomes. It reminds us that growth and learning can come from any experience if we approach it with the right mindset. Team quote 15.6. The dreadful burden of having nothing to do. Nicolas Despreaux, 1636–1711. This wry quote from Nicolas Despreaux, the French poet and critic, captures the paradoxical nature of idleness. As someone who championed clarity and discipline in writing, he recognized how the absence of purpose could become its own kind of oppression. What makes this observation particularly clever is the use of the word burden to describe nothingness, suggesting that emptiness and inactivity can weigh as heavily as overwhelming obligations. The word dreadful emphasizes just how oppressive this lack of purpose can feel. There's also a subtle social critique here. In an era when the aristocracy often prided itself on having nothing to do, Despreaux suggests that such idleness isn't enviable but burdensome. The quote implies that human beings need purpose and engagement to thrive. The insight speaks to a fundamental aspect of human psychology, our need for meaningful activity and purpose. Without it, Even complete freedom from obligation can become a source of distress rather than pleasure. This message remains strikingly relevant today, particularly in discussions about retirement, unemployment, or the impact of excessive leisure time. It reminds us that having nothing to do isn't necessarily a luxury. Meaningful engagement and purpose are essential to human well-being. Team quote 15.7. Beware of missing chances. Otherwise it may be altogether too late someday. Franz Liszt 1811 to 1886. This poignant quote from Franz Liszt, the Hungarian composer and virtuoso pianist, reflects his understanding of how fleeting opportunities can be. As someone who revolutionized piano performance and composition, Liszt knew firsthand the importance of seizing musical and creative opportunities when they arose. What makes this observation particularly powerful is the ominous warning in "altogether too late someday." It suggests that missed opportunities don't just pass temporarily, but can sometimes be lost forever. The word "beware" adds urgency, framing missed chances not just as unfortunate, but as potentially dangerous to our life's trajectory. There's a deeper wisdom here about the cumulative effect of missed opportunities. Liszt implies that it's not just about missing a single chance, but about how repeatedly letting opportunities slip by can lead to a point of no return. That someday, when it becomes too late to recover what was lost. The timing element in this quote is especially significant coming from a musician, someone who understood how crucial timing is in both music and life. Just as a wrong note can't be uncalled in a performance, some life opportunities, once missed, cannot be recovered. This insight remains remarkably relevant today, reminding us to be alert to opportunities and act on them while we can, rather than assuming they'll always be available. Team quote 15.8. By denying scientific principles, one may maintain any paradox. Galileo Galilei 1564 to 1642. This incisive quote from Galileo captures his frustration with those who rejected scientific evidence in favor of established beliefs. As someone who faced persecution for his scientific discoveries that challenged church doctrine, particularly his defense of the heliocentric model of the solar system, Galileo understood firsthand how denial of scientific principles could be used to maintain impossible positions. What makes this observation particularly powerful is the word paradox, suggesting that by rejecting scientific principles, people can maintain beliefs that are inherently self-contradictory or defy logic. The word any is also significant, implying that once you abandon scientific principles, there's no limit to what contradictory ideas you might accept. There's also a broader critique here of how people can maintain false beliefs by simply refusing to acknowledge evidence that contradicts them. Galileo suggests that scientific principles serve as a necessary check against self-deception and arbitrary beliefs. The quote feels remarkably modern and relevant today, particularly in debates about climate change, vaccination, or other scientific issues where some choose to deny established scientific principles to maintain contrary beliefs. It reminds us that the scientific method isn't just one way of knowing among many, but a crucial tool for distinguishing truth from falsehood. The personal cost of this insight to Galileo, who faced house arrest for his scientific work, adds particular weight to his words about the consequences of denying scientific principles. And if you'd like to help raise school test scores and self-confidence, you can give your kids free Easy Extra Advantage math, spelling and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free Easy Math Wisdom workbooks with octo-repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free Easy Alpha cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our Learning to Spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling and reading practice. And if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence, sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. Therefore I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages, promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city or state. Join the 52 of 8 today at 52of8.com.